In today's video, we're going to talk about zinc in homebrewing and how it impacts your fermentation. Let's get started. So for today's video, we are directly talking about zinc in conjunction with mead. The concepts, the ideas I'm going to talk about can be applied to wine, cider, beer, but I'm mostly doing this in reference to mead. What is zinc? Zinc is also one of those vitamins, minerals that we have in our daily life. We consume in various foods and stuff like that. Zinc is also something that we have seen kind of grow in popularity in fermentation. Specifically, I didn't really know much about this topic until my buddy Nathan Steigman, who is a Minnesota mead maker, very good mead maker, kind of started prompting me saying, hey, you should try using zinc in your fermentation. I didn't know anything about it. And so I ended up kind of, not gonna lie, I ignored it for a long time because I didn't want to have to do more with my mead making. And then there was a company that came out with this little zinc, basically things especially for homebrew. It is a zinc supplement that is intended to go in your brews. So that obviously was like a fast track for me just to give it a shot. So I ended up getting a hold of this zinc, liquid zinc stuff and deciding to do a test. So before we even talk about my test, what is zinc doing in homebrewing? So there's some data that has come out that suggests that your yeast, as we know, they need like nutrients and they need nitrogen, of course, especially for mead. They need the complex macronutrients. Within all that, they also need that zinc. And you're gonna get levels of zinc from your macronutrients in Fermate O, Fermate K, stuff like that. However, are you getting enough? That's the real question. So people have started to do some data and find that increased levels of zinc beyond the normal amount that you might get from a regular nutrient are beneficial to a fermentation in the same way that they help a fermentation be healthy with nutrient. Specifically, and I'm gonna read some notes because I'm gonna say this wrong. So zinc is a cofactor for enzymes. It is a cofactor for many yeast enzymes, especially those involved with alcohol dehydrogenase, which is that enzyme that helps convert acetaldehyde into ethanol during fermentation. Without enough zinc, these enzymes don't function. It also helps with the DNA and RNA synthesis, which is helping your yeast reproduce and grow. The correct amount of zinc will help your yeast be healthy. It helps to avoid yeast stress, which, as we know, yeast stress equals bad flavors. So essentially, overall, it's just a good way to continue to promote good health for your yeast. Now, it comes in a couple different forms. It came in that little liquid form that I found. I also, from Nathan, he told me you can get it in just like regular zinc pills, and I'll have some information on screen on like how much to add roughly and how much these pills, like he gave me a lot of great information. All this to say, I learned about zinc and I wanted to put it to the test to see if it does make a difference in a mead fermentation. So let's start with my test. I brewed a 2-gallon batch. Well, I made 2 gallons of must. I split said must into 2 1-gallon containers. I added the same yeast and the same yeast amount to both of them. The starting gravity for my brews was 1.100. Now here's where the test begins. In one of them, I added zinc. I added the amount of zinc that was suggested on my liquid thing, which I'll put it on screen. I don't remember how much it was, but it wasn't a lot. I added zinc to one container, and then to the other one, I left it alone. I did not add any zinc. Now, I did give these proper yeast nutrient. I gave them Fermate O as part of their fermentation in equal parts. So the only differences between these brews is one has zinc, one doesn't. We let them ferment out, and I did put 2 tilt hydrometers in to map the fermentation speed because I was curious to see how they would do. And surprisingly, and I double checked that I didn't have the wrong ones, surprisingly, the one that had zinc in it fermented slower than the one that did not have zinc, which seems contrary to what we might think, But I don't know if that's, I don't know. That's an interesting conundrum there. So the one with zinc fermented slower took about 3 days more to finish fermenting at 1.000. The one without zinc finished the 3 days before the one with zinc. They both finished fermenting. I decided to leave these dry because I was worried about adding sweetness and impacting the taste results of my test by possibly hiding behind sweetness. So I left them dry. They sat for a few months. They started to clear up, and then I bottled them, and they're in bottles. I did label them, one with zinc, and made sure to keep my labels correct. I shared some bottles with some of my Minnesota friends. You'll see some information from them. And I did a triangle test with my buddy BC to see if we could find the one that tasted different. So we did 3 triangle tests, and the first round there was 2 A's and a B. The second round there was 2 B's and an A. And the third round there was 2 A's and a B. And of course we mixed them around. So I will do a quick little, show you that little triangle taste test. All right, you should not be able to see the letters. I have done a Sharpie trick, so let's do it.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that good, huh? This is the zinc. It's sort of flowing through your veins now.
I can feel it. Very dry. I mean, this the floral here is like bitter floral.
Yeah. It's kind of tart too.
Mm-hmm.
These all taste pretty similar.
Yeah. I think I have one that tastes different though. And it's mostly that it doesn't have as much, it's a little smoother, doesn't have as much tart dryness to it. What you got? You should have, I got a B.
I got an A.
Okay, so there should have been 2 A's and a B. This one's a little tougher. I had a little faulty error here. My tape was not sticking on this, so I went down to 50-50. Sorry, I know that breaks a little bit of the immersion. This is what I think is it. Oh, I was wrong. I got a B.
I got a B.
Okay, well,
BA.
So
I don't think there's...
Taste, there's not a huge difference. All right, so as you can see, we struggled to find the taste differences between them. That was an interesting part of this. I had a hard time really finding a difference. Now, I did get to sit down with my buddy Nathan, who turned me into this world of trying zinc for my mead, and we talked about zinc in mead because he is someone who uses it a lot, and he's a fantastic mead maker that medals in a lot of competitions. And it could be that zinc is the key to that success. So here's a quick little talk with Nathan. All right, here we are with the, I'm gonna use the term zinc master, but you're really the person who introduced me to zinc. I know that you're gonna deny it, but you introduced me to zinc in my possible mead making, and I've really dove into it now. I have Nathan Steigman here, who's a well-known award-winning mead maker, and I personally have learned a lot from him, and so I hope we get to learn a little bit more. I know we will. Nathan, tell me about what got you into using zinc in the first place in your mead?
Then started studying things and came down the rabbit hole of looking at a study that was from Joe Kinney, who was at FX Matt Brewing Company, and he was looking at his use of zinc in beer making. And I thought that was quite interesting as a way to kind of help support getting a cleaner ferment, being able to, populate a number of yeast cells in growth. And, the idea or the inference here is that with really great healthy yeast, especially amongst beer making, the yeast that you are using that have certain characteristics imparted into those styles of beer will become very much apparent, and we have less of a problem, as it were, in the eventual product. Yeah. So that's a commercial level. And so as homebrewers, I brew beer, like to make wine, cider, mead, obviously. And we were, kind of looking at that and saying, wow, there may be some, application here. Someone's taken a great deal of time and energy, even all of these Excel spreadsheets and everything else and presentations to get to the point of what's our what's our part per millionth of zinc that would be great here? And you're finding things like even the low nutrient, or I guess the yeast with lower nutrient requirements, even like a DV10 or the champagne yeast of the EC118, can still benefit quite a bit from a zinc addition. Because really, after the all else is said, you know, the when all the nutrients are really used up by these, zinc is one of those things that maybe just kind of the last little link that helps things along the way. And so I said, well, what can I do with the commercial levels of zinc? And I started to explore different types of zinc. And so I was looking at various vitamins, and there's a lot of different zinc supplements out there. So I was just trying to figure out, well, what would be good idea for me to use that's not going to make me sick with. I found zinc picolinate, and just another way of easily assimilating that into consumption as well. And so just looking at overall, I figured, and there's other studies out there, and making sure of this is that you can add a certain level of zinc element to your mead making, and really not be earth-shattering in off flavors or compounds or minerality or anything that you might think, if I'm adding something, it's going to drastically affect the flavor. Well, look at the volume and really just going with it on a very small level. Most of these caplets where you can take them apart, so you're not even looking at dissolving the gel. It's it's the pure powdered form of that 50 milligram packet, or dose, if you will. And if you're doing 100 milligrams for a 5-gallon batch or even above, it's been shown in other studies that you really can't go above this huge level of toxicity with the minimal amount of what we would be using. And just saying that with a caveat, overloading zinc or overloading any one thing is probably not a good idea. How much elemental zinc you are getting, because there are different forms of zinc out there. Just reading the labels is a big portion of it. I will say that the the Joe Kinney studies and whatnot, it was just basically saying adding stuff on the colder side, not the hot side. And really what it comes down to too is that the unused zinc, if it's not used, generally will fall out into the trub. It's a protein binder. So it's actually something that falls out into the trub. So the unused zinc, I was less worried about it not being used. It's going to fall out if it's not uptake by the yeast itself. But he did say one small thing. It was just sort of in the background, just kind of, instead of how much parts per millionth should we use, maybe we should be dosing based on how much cells, how much yeast we're actually pitching, as another thought process into this whole thing. So going with the small level and seeing how it works out. I'm surprised that it is. I do say that it's great for the idea, especially if you're going with high gravity meads, giving us a little bit more of what I used to call, and I still call it, an insurance policy out there. We often, there's, depending on the meads you make, you may use Opti Red, Opti White, other products that are out there, FT Rouge, what have you. And there's a lot of mead makers that don't want to use any of that stuff whatsoever. And I that's fine. It's what your level of comfort is. Also knowing that you're not really doing something outside of a safety issue for, your mead. So
I feel like there's still a whole mead making community group who, if it's anything beyond honey water yeast, they're like, I'm out. Like, I don't want to do anything else, because that's not how they made it before, or I don't want to have to go buy this stuff. And so I do like your use of saying insurance policy, because as someone who's made a lot of mead, both of us have seen probably some highs and lows.
Too much.
Yeah. We've seen some highs and lows of quality. And I'm sure that if we were really going back and looking at data, we could say like, oh, well, there's a common trend of when I did this, and I underpitched, or I didn't add my zinc, or I didn't add my fermento, like I had this end result. Obviously, not many of us are tracking that sort of stuff, but I think there'd be a commonality between those things.
If you do let things go too long, or you don't rack at a certain time, or other things, or temperature fluctuations happen, this is not the complete answer for making the most wonderful mead in the world, for sure. There's a lot of factors in everything. So you've got all these things that are kind of developing and cofactors as well.
Yep.
I think it's at the end of it all, it's like, it's not always just to set it and forget it, because that's just crazy. But I guess, in the long of short of it, on the past, I would say, I drank the mistakes because I'm need to learn from it. I'm trying to drink less mistakes. I think over time I've had to consume a lot less mistakes.
Yeah.
And in that regard, because of having a little extra on a mineral and an elemental aspect into zinc for the yeast. So that's just pure observation. Take it or leave it. You don't have to take it at all. You don't have to use it at all.
Yeah.
But we found in your instance and testing it out, I think it worked out.
So Nathan was super informative, really helpful, and I kind of cut that segment down. I'm going to go ahead and put my full conversation with Nathan about zinc and things, because it was about 35 minutes of us chatting. I'll put that on my second channel. There'll be a link in the description if you'd like to hear more from him, the whole talk there. Nathan has noted, and they noted in the Minnesota community there, they noted a couple differences between them. And it could be that my palate is just not as well refined. And I will be the first one to tell you that those Minnesota guys have fantastic palates, probably are definitely better than mine. But at the end of the day, what I noticed, what I tasted was not a huge difference. This is only one example though. This is not including any back sweetening. This is not including using fruit. This is not including using spice. Like, zinc could play better in a different sandbox. We played in the single sandbox of a traditional dry mead. So before we discount and discredit any ideas that zinc does or doesn't do anything, I do want to suggest that there is more testing that needs to be done. Now, I could absolutely do 25 videos with testings of zincs and stuff like that, but I'm not going to do that. I want you to go out and try this on your own. Zinc is very easy to get. You can buy it in little capsule forms. Maybe do a side-by-side test and see if you get some differences, and then come back and report your findings as well. At the end of the day, this is something that has to be experienced for you to understand. I do think it's worth experiencing, and I plan to do more with zinc in my mead making, because like I said, I think it's not completely uncovered yet. Still some data to be found out. Thank you to Nathan for helping me figure out more about this topic. I hope that you'll go and hit the subscribe button, of course, do all the things, and support the Patreon and YouTube membership if you would like to do that. I love getting to do these videos, and I hope at the end of this whole thing, you've learned something, that it's been educational and entertaining. So thanks for watching. Cheers.